So, Chuck, Wakanda was disappointed. There were three, now there's only Francis.
Yep.
So, Israel Adesanya was stopped in the fifth by Pereira, which is a repeat of what happened in the kickboxing days. And you were someone who anticipated that Israel was going to win this.
Yeah.
And in the end, it did not happen for the reasons as stated. Were you shocked that it went that way again?
I was shocked, man. It's one of those things where it was exactly the fight repeated, where Izzy has a very good first round, and towards the end of the round, before the bell goes, he has him rocked. And just before he could pounce on and finish him, obviously the bell goes 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4 happen, and then in round 5 he gets knocked out. Just like in the kickboxing. So it's one of those things where it shouldn't happen exactly the way it did before. I was surprised because as someone who's faced Pereira before, you know what to expect from the guy. Not only that, but he's limited in terms of he's a kickboxing person, and he hasn't really integrated any other thing into his game. You saw when they were grappling against the fence, when Izzy took him down, he's got no defense for that. He just does not bother to do anything like that beyond just the kickboxing. And I thought to myself that having dominated that fight in the earlier rounds, that he'll see it through. When he got caught with that hand, and I mean, like I said to you before when we were talking, I haven't seen Izzy get caught flush. I wasn't expecting him to get caught flush because he was elusive the entire time. And as I was watching, I was like, you only have to evade the left hand. The right hand, fine, because you're not going to go clean. If you're going to put yourself on any side, allow yourself to get hit by the right hand, avoid the left at all costs. He did that up until the 5th round, and the belt is gone. So I was surprised. He lost it in the same way that he did the kickboxing fight.
I was disappointed because my first reaction was that Izzy was careless because up until that round, specifically where what he did in terms of the ground game, in terms of the wrestling, where he did have body control, and you could see that Pereira did not have the prerequisite skills to break out of that, and it took it out of him. I think in that one round he was on him for over 3 minutes, almost 4. And to me, it's a matter of, well, we are, to borrow from baseball, in the bottom of the 9th, close it out. At this point, you don't need to be doing anything fancy. You've got this fight in terms of the scoring, and you just need to not lose it. The only way you are going to lose it if this guy knocks you out or the ref stops it because you're about to go on your backside on the canvas. And that was the disappointment for me, that this. Yeah. Your corner knows this, his corner knows this. We heard them speak about it. Like, you and me watching at home know this. Everyone in the arena knows this, seemingly except for Izzy. And for me, it was a matter of, why not just continue with the thing that got you to this point where you just needed to ice this victory, and to just then be there. I was not happy throughout the fight in terms of when he was going backwards up against the cage, because that's exactly where I thought like Pereira would want him, where you've got nowhere to go, you backed up against the parameters of this ring, and I am throwing, which is what he wanted to do, especially in that 5th round, because that was the only way for him to win. And so for when it happened, and it happened because, as I'm saying, Izzy went away from trying to get a hold of him, that was disappointing. Yeah. Also because when in the previous runs, when he did land some hard shots, not quite rocked, but you felt those, and you also know this man's power because he's stopped you before. So all of those things for me, especially with the kind of experience that Izzy has overall in his fighting career, particularly then in the UFC and MMA, compared to Pereira, was only in his 4th or 5th fight, are things that were supposed to lead him to the victory in the end there, where it was supposed to be clinical, a good clean job, he's in and he's out of there, and he's finally put a stop to the chatter from the man who keeps going on and telling the world how he put him on his backside, so disappointing.
I think the story has a lot to do with how the fight went, man, because as you were saying, Pereira was always putting out those videos. I mean, I think not even just before this fight, for months and years before, Pereira just kept on putting that video. I think on 3 different times when Izzy was winning, he's like, post out there, and the narrative was, last time, because women's Mr. Tapel, which was when he knocked him out. But here's why I say which is the story somewhat made the fight the way that it was. Because when we were talking prior, I said to you, some people say Izzy's fights are boring because he's more, I'm the champ, come and get the belt. When you are of that mindset, you don't stand against the cage and trade and want to go against one of the biggest punches in the middleweight division. You say, come to me, and when you have a mistake, I'll punish you, which is what he was doing the entire fight. But because of the fact that you knocked me out twice, and you keep playing this video, and you're saying, Guti, you've got my number, I have to prove something to you. So I feel, Guti, he never has to prove anything against any of the other opponents. He just needs to be superior. And in a game where he's got the wrestling and the grappling, as we've mentioned, where he's like, okay, this is not kickboxing. There's more to this sport, and I've shown you, which I can grapple better than you, I can wrestle better than you. He should have done that, but he didn't. And I think it had a lot to do with the story and the narrative of what happened.
Do you think Pereira won the psychological warfare there? Do you think that came into play in that 5th round, where maybe he's standing up against him, and we are back in the moment where we are kickboxers, and he wants to take him out that way. He wants to beat him on his feet because of what happened like in the past. Do you think that is something that may have come into Izzy's thinking, and like it just motivating his ego to go out this way?
I think when you listen to the pre-match press conferences, Izzy keeps saying, I want to knock him out. And that's because of what's happened before. And I think those mental games, if you look at the fact that he rocked him in round 1, coming into the 5th round, because it's not like Izzy was barely surviving the other rounds in terms of escaping Pereira's power. He was clearly evading it and didn't get hit much. And I think he thought to himself, now I'm in a position where I can go on the offensive and beat him the way we fight, which is kickboxing. So maybe there might have been an edging of the mental battle from Pereira's side, because as you had pointed out, which he was careless. He didn't have to put himself in those positions. He didn't have to fight the way he fought in the 5th round, because all the other things that he was doing before were giving him success. Grappling, successful. Wrestling, successful. And the kickboxing, when he was keeping his distance. Because Izzy's one of the faster guys. But if you close the distance, even if I'm slow, my punch will land because you're that close, you know? And so he put himself in places where he didn't need to. So I think mentally, he must have got to him in terms of how he actually wanted to see out the fight.